1. e4, Robert James Fischer opens with his favorite move, initiating a sharp and direct confrontation, a perfect choice for a battle against the magician from Riga, Mikhail Tal. 1. c5, Tal responds with his own beloved weapon, the Sicilian defense. A clash of titans is guaranteed, as both players are entering a theoretical and tactical labyrinth on their own terms. 2. nf3, Fischer continues with the open Sicilian, the most ambitious and challenging approach, aiming to seize an immediate initiative in the center of the board. 2. nc6, Tal develops his knight, maintaining flexibility and steering the game towards the complex and dynamic positions in which his tactical genius flourished. 3. d4, the thematic central strike. Fischer blasts open the position, creating the sharp, unbalanced struggle that both he and his legendary opponent relished. 3. cxd4, the obligatory exchange. Tal cedes control of the center temporarily in exchange for a long-term structural advantage with his central pawn majority. For nxd4, the white knight occupies its ideal central post on d4. From this commanding square, it will exert a powerful influence and serve as the pivot for white's operations. For e6, Tal chooses the Taimanov variation, a flexible and subtle system that avoids early weaknesses and prepares for a complex strategic and tactical battle. 5. nc3, a logical and powerful developing move. Fischer brings another knight into the game, reinforces his control of the center, and prepares to challenge black's setup head-on. 5. qc7, the main line of the Taimanov. The queen develops to a useful square, controlling the c-file, preparing to challenge white in the center, and keeping options open. 6. g3, Fischer opts for a fianchetto setup, a subtle and strategic approach. Instead of a direct kingside attack, he aims for long-term positional pressure, a wise choice against a tactical genius like Tal. 6. nf6, Tal continues with natural development, bringing his knight to its best square and preparing to castle his king to safety. 7. ndb5, a very aggressive and provocative knight jump. Fischer immediately creates a concrete threat against the d6 square, forcing Tal to respond precisely and steering the game into sharp tactical waters. 7. qb8, the only and best reply. The queen is forced into a retreat to defend the weak point on d6 and prepares to fight for control of the crucial dark squares. 8. bf4, Fischer continues his hyper-aggressive strategy, developing his bishop to attack the weak d6 square and putting immediate and immense pressure on Tal's entire setup. 8. na5, a brilliant counterpunch from Tal. He blocks the bishop's attack and places his knight on a magnificent central outpost, creating immense complications. A true Tal-style move. 9. b2, Fischer develops his bishop, prepares to castle, and keeps a menacing eye on the powerful black knight on e5. The tension in the center is reaching a boiling point. 9. bc5, Tal develops his bishop to its most active square, putting pressure on f2 and adding even more fuel to the raging tactical fire. He is not backing down for a second. 10. b5, Fischer makes a critical decision to trade, eliminating the powerful blockading knight. This clarifies the central tension but opens the position even more, leading to a wild melee. 10. c5, the forced recapture brings Tal's queen to an active central square. The position is incredibly sharp, unbalanced, and a perfect canvas for the two geniuses to work their magic. 11. h4, Fischer immediately challenges the black queen with this aggressive pawn thrust, seizing more space in the center and creating new, dangerous threats. 11. qb8, the queen is forced to retreat again, a small victory for Fischer, who has successfully gained time and space in the center while dislodging black's most active piece. 12. e5, the attack continues relentlessly. Fischer pushes his e-pawn forward, creating a powerful central wedge and putting immense pressure on black's entire defensive structure. 12. a6, Tal's counterpunch. He attacks the knight on b5, forcing Fischer to make a difficult decision and creating a cascade of tactical complications. He is fighting fire with fire. 13. x6, Fischer captures the knight, opening the e-file and creating a dangerous passed pawn deep in enemy territory. He bravely enters the tactical storm, confident in his calculation. 13. ax5, the forced recapture.
Tal eliminates the annoying knight but now must contend with the monstrous white pawn on f6, a permanent and deadly threat. 14. Fxg7, the pawn becomes a hero. It attacks the rook on h8 and becomes an incredible nuisance, tying down black's pieces and creating constant threats for the rest of the game. 14. Rg8, the only move. The rook is forced to a somewhat awkward square, and the g7 pawn will remain a thorn in black's side, a testament to Fischer's brilliant attacking concept. 15. n4, Fischer's knight leaps to a powerful central square, taking advantage of the weak and dark squares and creating new threats against the vulnerable and uncastled black king. 15. b7, the bishop is forced into a passive defensive role, desperately trying to hold the crumbling position together against Fischer's relentless and multi-pronged assault. 16. qd4, the queen joins the attack. A powerful centralizing move that creates multiple threats, connects the rooks, and prepares for queenside castling, a true declaration of war. 16. ra4, a fantastic counter-attacking move from Tal. He brings his rook into the game with a direct threat against the white queen, creating chaos and trying to seize the initiative. 17. nf6+, Fischer coolly ignores the threat to his queen and continues his attack with a powerful check, forcing a trade of pieces that will clarify his decisive advantage. 17. bxf6, the only move. Tal is forced to trade his important dark-squared bishop, leaving his king fatally exposed on the weak and dark squares. 18. qxf6, the white queen lands on a devastating attacking square. It now dominates the entire board and poses a lethal and almost unstoppable threat to the exposed black king. 18. qc7, Tal tries to create some desperate counterplay on the c-file, his only remaining hope in a very difficult and strategically lost position. 19. Fischer castles queenside, bringing his final piece into the attack and placing his king in relative safety. The white attacking machine is now fully operational and overwhelming. 19. rook-2, Tal grabs a pawn, a desperate act of a condemned man. This rook is now completely out of play and cannot help in the vital defense of its king. 20. kb1, a crucial prophylactic move of the highest class. Fischer moves his king off the c-file, neutralizing any potential threats and securing his position before delivering the final, crushing blow. 20. ra6, the black rook is forced into a sad retreat, having achieved very little. It is now a helpless spectator to the destruction of its own king. 21. bxb5, Fischer begins the harvest, capturing a pawn and further shattering black's defensive coordination. The material advantage is now added to his crushing positional one. 21. rb6, Tal tries to create some nuisance value with his rook, but it is a futile gesture against Fischer's perfectly coordinated and relentlessly advancing attack. 22. bd3, the bishop retreats to an even stronger square, from where it controls key diagonals, eyes the black king, and prepares to join the final, decisive assault. 22. e5, a desperate pawn sacrifice from Tal, the last gasp of a tactical genius. He tries to open lines and create chaos, but it is a sign of a completely hopeless position. 23. fex5, Fischer calmly captures the pawn, opening the f-file for his rooks. He correctly judges that this move only accelerates his winning attack and brings him closer to victory. 23. rxf6, Tal is forced to sacrifice the exchange to eliminate the monster queen, a practical decision to prolong the game, but the resulting endgame is completely lost. 24. h6, the recapture creates a new and powerful passed pawn for white, another decisive advantage that will guarantee victory in the coming endgame. 24. qc5, Tal tries to create a blockade with his queen, his last active piece, but it is a lonely warrior fighting against a coordinated white army. 25. bxh7, the bishop grabs another pawn, and the material advantage is now completely overwhelming. The rest of the game will be a masterclass in technique from Fischer. 25. qg5, Tal tries to create some last-ditch threats against the white king, his last hope, but Fischer's defense is as precise and ruthless as his attack. 26. bxg8, Fischer simplifies by trading the bishop for the rook, knowing that the resulting endgame with an extra exchange and a powerful passed pawn is a trivial win. 26. qxf6, the recapture. Black has managed to create some counterplay,
but white's massive material advantage should be more than enough to secure the win.
27. Rhf1, the rook comes to the open file with perfect timing, preparing to support the advance of the passed pawn and create new, decisive threats. Fischer's execution is flawless.
27. Qxg7, Tal captures the dangerous g-pawn, but this allows white's remaining bishop to re-enter the game with devastating and decisive effect.
28. Bxf7+, a crushing check that forces the black king into the open and wins another pawn.
The game is now effectively over, and the rest is a simple execution.
28. Kd8, the black king is forced to a horrible square, where it will be a permanent target for the rest of the game, completely exposed to white's pieces.
29. B6, the bishop lands on a dominating square, from where it controls the entire board and prepares to escort the powerful passed pawn to its queening square.
29. Qh6, a final desperate attempt to create threats against the white king, but the black queen is fighting a lost battle completely on its own. 30. Bxd7, the simplest path to victory.
Fischer trades his powerful bishop for the knight, simplifying into a completely winning rook endgame where his extra exchange will be decisive.
30. Bxd7, the forced recapture.
Black is now a clean exchange down with no compensation whatsoever, a completely hopeless position against a player of Fischer's technical caliber.
31. Rf7, the rook invades the 7th rank with decisive effect. This powerful move creates unstoppable threats against black's weak pawns and completely paralyzes his position.
31. Qxh2, Tal grabs a pawn, but it is a meaningless gesture in a completely lost position. He is just playing on, hoping for a blunder that will never come.
32. Rdxd7+, the double rook attack begins.
The white rooks coordinate perfectly to hunt the exposed black king and mop up the remaining pawns.
32. Q8, the king is forced to the edge of the board, a very dangerous place to be when facing two powerful enemy rooks on an open board. 33. Ride 7+, another check. Fischer's technique is relentless and perfect. He gives Tal absolutely no chances to create any counterplay or confusion. 33. Kd8, the black king is being driven back and forth, completely at the mercy of the white rooks, which are now working in perfect harmony. 34. Rd7+, the checks continue, forcing the king into a passive and hopeless position. Fischer is playing with the precision of a machine, slowly tightening the screws. 34. Kc8, the king is forced to the c-file, but there is no safety to be found anywhere on the board. The white rooks control all the important squares. 35. Rc7+, the rook moves to the c-file, continuing the harassment and preparing to create a decisive mating net or win more material. 35. Kd8, the black king is a lonely and tragic figure, a hunted animal with no place to hide from the relentless pursuit of the white rooks. 36. Rfd7+, the second rook joins the hunt again, demonstrating the perfect and brutal coordination of white's pieces. The end is now very near. 36. Q8, the king is forced back to the e-file, but it is just a temporary reprieve. The final, decisive phase of the game is about to begin. 37. Rd1, a calm and deadly move. Fischer ends the sequence of checks and prepares to use his rooks to support the advance of his passed pawns. 37. B5, a desperate pawn move from Tal, trying to create some breathing room, but it only creates new weaknesses that Fischer will be happy to exploit. 38. Rb7, the rook takes up an even more dominating position on the 7th rank, completely paralyzing black's forces and preparing the final push. 38. Qh5, the queen tries to create some threats from afar, but it is a futile gesture. White's position is a fortress, and his own threats are overwhelming. 39. G4, a powerful pawn push that restricts the black queen and prepares to create a passed pawn on the kingside, adding another unstoppable threat. 39. Qh3, the queen is forced into a passive retreat. It is completely dominated by white's perfectly coordinated pieces and pawns. 40. G5, another pawn push, creating a passed pawn and tightening the suffocating net around black's position. The win is now a matter of simple moves. 41. 1+ rupee, the final assault begins with a decisive check.
The white rooks are now ready to deliver the coup de grace to the helpless black king. 41, kf8, the king is forced to a passive square, where it can only watch as its position completely collapses under the weight of white's attack. 42, rxb5, the rook grabs another pawn, and the material difference is now enormous.
The game is completely won, and the rest is a simple execution.
42, kg7, a sad king move, a sign of complete desperation.
Tal is out of ideas and is just waiting for the final, merciful blow.
43, rb6, the rook continues its domination of the board, controlling key squares and preparing to support the final advance of the g-pawn. 43, qg3, the queen continues to make some nuisance threats, but they are easily parried by white.
The position is strategically and materially hopeless for black.
44, rd1, a calm and precise move to consolidate the position. Fischer brings his rook back to the center, preparing to meet any last-ditch threats.
44, qc7, the queen is forced to retreat again. It is a lonely and tragic figure, unable to stop the inevitable defeat.
45, rdd6, the rooks are once again a symphony of destruction, perfectly coordinated and ready to deliver the final, crushing blow. 45, qc8, the queen is forced back even further, a pitiful sight. It can do nothing but watch as white's pawns roll down the board to victory. 46, b3, a quiet but deadly move. Fischer creates an escape square for his king and takes away key squares from the black queen, completing the suffocation.
47, ra6, the elegant and decisive final move.
This rook swing creates an unstoppable threat of ra8, winning the queen or forcing checkmate. Seeing no defense, Mikhail Tal resigns.
1-0 black resigns.